Okay, so I've got the Detrola Model 4D on the bench, circa 1932. I'm going to do this, going to do a fire up with a dim bulb. This is a TRF set. I'm going to do a dim bulb with the variac and the isolation transformer and see where we go. I turned it around. I've had this for a while, never really paid much attention to it. 4-tube radio, they're all there. Don't know if you can see by the dust. Not sure how it's going to happen. The cord is basically, you can see it's basically just 2 cords now. Everything's deteriorated. And when I finally got the plug out, this is all that was there. So before we do anything, I'm going to need to put some type of a plug on this and make sure there's no shorts before we go any further. So stand by, and I'll see what I can put on this. Okay, so I cut those ends off right here, and I'm leaving the cord the way it was. I've got the dim bulb, the variac, and I also have the isolation transformer down there. So let's turn this on, and let's start turning the power up. The radio is already in the on position. I wanted to have the ability to shut it off quickly from here should I start letting out the magic smoke. We're about halfway on the power, and I still don't see any light from the bulb. I'll move my light out of the way. Bulb is starting to glow. It's not coming up to full brightness, so I would say there's no shorts. I mean, it's not even coming up to full brightness, I should say. Yep. It's getting power. This is a 40-watt bulb I have in there. That's, you could say it's still pretty dim. I don't see filaments or anything lighting up. Boy, it's dirty. I don't usually work on anything this dirty. I usually clean things before I work on them. I'm not hearing anything out of and I'm adjusting the tuning. I don't hear anything. So let's punch this up to full power. Bulb still isn't really at 40 watts, so the radio is absorbing some of that power. All right. I got nada. All right, so let me just shut this down. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the chassis out, see where we're at, and maybe test some of these tubes, see if the tubes are okay. Okay, I got the knobs off the front. It's interesting here, in order to take this dial off, you had to take the scutcheon plate off so that the dial would come out. Didn't realize that there's a dial bulb in here, so hopefully we can see it light eventually. All right, I'm hoping that the power transformer is not bad in here. So let me swing around to the bottom. Got a little spider activity up in this one. And this whole board is Basically looks like it's going to fall apart. Looks like there's only 2 screws holding it in, so let me get those out. Be right back. Okay, I do have it out. I'm not going to do anything else, until I get this 90-year-old dust out so that I can work on it, see what's going on. All right, I will clean this up. Hey, before I do that, these must be the antenna wires, hopefully. It's amazing they put long enough wires on so you could actually take the chassis out and work on it. Hold on, let me put you down. And now they're all soldered on. Yeah, okay. Yep, all right, so let me flip this baby over. Let's see what it looks like underneath. Whoa. Yeah, looks like I don't know what was living in here. Not much to it, really. I'm going to have to go through and check the transformer. Obviously, all these capacitors are going to have to be changed. There's a couple up in here. I'm going to test the coil. If the coils are open, it's probably going to end this project. But for now, it's going to be a cleanup just to get some of the dirt out of it. And then I'll come back and see where we're at. If that electro coil up there is bad, that's going to be a problem too. I do have the schematic for it. It's this one over here, the 4D. We'll see. We'll see where we're at. All right. Stand by. Okay. So I didn't show you how to test tubes. I mean, tube testing is the same no matter who does it. You put the tube in the tester, you set it up. It's either good, bad, in between. So my rectifier tube, I'm not going with numbers. I'm just going whether they were good or bad. My rectifier tube, the number 80, was in the green. The 42 output was in the yellow. The RF and the detector tubes were both in the green. So when I turn the switch on, okay, now what? Oh, got to turn that on too. You can see the bulb came up. I've now put a 75 watt bulb in, okay? It comes up, it's not really getting dim like I'd like to see it get, which leads me to believe I'm going to shut this off because I'm cooking things at this point. This is a 450 volt cap. I believe there's 2 ends on this. Looking on the schematic, yeah, there's 2 450 volt caps in here. So that's what it looks like. Yeah, 450 volts on the schematic. This one here and this one here. Okay. So before I go any further, I'm going to have to get some caps and at least recap this. The power transformer is good. Voltages coming out of the power transformer are okay. I've got my 5 volts, my 6.3, and my about 400 volts for the rectifier tube. This set looks pretty virgin. I don't think anybody's ever touched this set on the inside. All of these capacitors look original. The only thing that I see in here that is different than everything else is the 80 rectifier tube. All the others are branded Raytheon. So the rectifier tube, the number 80 tube, is the only tube that I see that's bad. But I'm not going to do anything further now until I can get these caps changed. I'm going to try to change them one at a time, see what I get. Again, everything looks original, even all the soldering and everything in here. Well, yeah, even this is an Aerovox. All these capacitors are Aerovox capacitors, which leads me to believe that nobody's been in here. So I'm going to cut this off for now. When I get my caps, I will. So I don't think I have any of these in stock. These are 8 microfarad and 16 microfarad at 450 volts. That's not something I keep around. So with that, this is going to be put on the back bench until I can get the caps and see what's going on. The bulb is good. The reason the bulb didn't light originally, I'll show you why. Let me tilt this back down. That's because the socket had come apart. So I'll have to get a socket for this as well. Again, I've got sockets, but I don't know if I can find a bracket like that. I might have to take one that I have and put it on this bracket so that it sits back far enough, just enough to light the dial, but not interfere with anything else. There's not a lot of clearance behind there either. So, all right. That's what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to bite my tongue here. And earlier I said that I felt that this was pretty original, that nobody's been in here. I'm going to take that back. So getting in here, I noticed that this joint here looks like this resistor was cut possibly in testing and then soldered back together. Also, I don't believe this cap is original. This calls for an 8 and a 16 at 450, and the schematic calls for a 4 and a 4. So it's possible that it was original, but when I looked, you can't see too well in here. Like, this is hard to get in here and see, but let me move this out of the way. When I got down in here, get in here, and I started looking at the wiring down in here, this has been resoldered, okay? And that's the yellow, that's this yellow wire. Also, this one here has been resoldered. Now, I don't believe the factory did something like that. I mean, back in the 30s, hey, anything's possible, but I just don't believe that was original. So I believe this has been worked on. I believe this has been changed. I don't know, maybe I'll go with an 8 and a 16 or 2 4s. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet, but we'll see. I might just go with the 8 and the 16, see how it works. If not, I'll put the other ones in. I'd like to point out, if we can get down in here and get my pointer in. If you look at this, this is insulated from the chassis with some type of a fiber board. It just has a rivet going through the center of it to keep it from shorting out. I also found another one of those. Let me get some wires out of the way here. Where are we? Over here. Over here. Same thing. This is insulated from the chassis. And this is just like a piece of fiberboard or something Never seen that before. Most of my radios that I work on are 40s vintage or newer. So some of the stuff in here is, I know what these resistors are. Interestingly, this one here that I said had been clipped. I can't find this resistor on the schematic. So was it added? Was it changed? It's going to take some time to go through this. This capacitor looks like it didn't have anything on it. Well, it did. It had this piece of, let me put my pointer down. It had this piece of paper on it with some numbers. Told me absolutely nothing. Okay. So it might be a date code, but it doesn't tell me what the capacitor is. But looking on the schematic, like I said, it's a 10 microfarad. Not sure what the voltage is supposed to be, but I'll work that out. It's a cathode bypass capacitor. So I'm going to have to get some capacitors to replace these. These I might have in stock. 10 microfarad, unknown voltage. I may have something, but chances are I'm going to wind up ordering as well. I'll go through and I'll check the value on these resistors. Again, I did check the tubes. I had one tube that showed weak, not bad, but weak, and that was the output tube. I'm not getting anything right now. So if I do need tubes, I don't have any of these in stock. These are not tubes that I normally encounter. A 78, a 77, a 42, and an 80. So if I have to, I might wind up having to buy some tubes for it. But that's no big deal. They're available. Again, I'm going to have to go through this whole thing. Voltages seem to be okay. I know this capacitor is bad. This one is completely open. This one isn't open, but I think it's leaking. I didn't use the leakage tester. Yeah, it's up on the shelf. I'm not going to bother. It's got to be changed. The other thing is I want to get up in here and really get down in here. Really want to get in and check that speaker. Again, that'll be another stopping point if there's an issue with that speaker. So we'll take it from there. Alrighty, until the next time. This is part one. This is going to take a while. I'm going to have to get parts and things for it. So subscribe, click like, and leave a message. I like to respond to messages. Take care and have a good night.